Discover the miraculous redemption of Dinah, God's divine plan for Jacob's daughter revealed. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, when the people of Israel were scattered and Jacob's family had multiplied under the promise of the Almighty, a young woman named Dinah, daughter of Leah and Jacob, was filled with youthful curiosity. Her heart danced with excitement as she sought to know the world beyond her family's tent. With the vibrant city of Shechem calling to her, she ventured forth, unaware of the shadows that lurked in the hearts of men. As she stepped into the bustling streets, the sights and sounds of Shechem enveloped her. Colorful fabrics billowed in the wind, and the air was alive with the laughter and chatter of women. Freedom coursed through her veins. She was, after all, Jacob's daughter, the progeny of a patriarch whose name echoed with authority. Yet amidst her joy, the gaze of Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, fell upon her with a consuming desire, igniting a dark flame in her heart. In that fateful moment, Dinah's life shifted irrevocably. Shechem, driven by his passion, seized her in a cruel grip, committing a grievous act that shattered the peace of her spirit. Honor, once her shield, lay in tatters at her feet. Dinah returned to her family, heartbroken and devastated. The weight of her loss clung to her like a garment. News of her suffering ignited fury in the hearts of her brothers, Simeon and Levi. Their hands clenched as they conferred in their father's tent, righteous anger brewing within them. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the hours passed, a plan steeped in deception emerged. Simeon and Levi, torn between vengeance and justice,
would her life contribute to the holy narrative of redemption, drawing forth a promise yet to be fulfilled. God's unseen hand was orchestrating a story woven into the fabric of his people, a story of hope against a backdrop of chaos. Would Dinah, amidst grief, find her strength in the covenant of her ancestors? What awaited her as the tumult of her brothers erupted into action would be a tension-filled chapter in God's divine plan, intertwining her fate with a narrative that transcended time and would echo through the ages. As the dawn broke over the hills of Shechem, the first light filtered through the tents, illuminating the weary faces of the men gathered for the covenant of circumcision. In their hearts, a mix of hope and dread stirred, as if the promises of the gods were intertwined with their flesh. Yet none foresaw the wrath that awaited them. Simeon and Levi, emboldened by the pain of their sister, observed from a distance, their souls aflame with righteous indignation. It had not started as mere vengeance. It was a call to justice, a reclaiming of honor for their family. The intricate plan they arranged swirled in the wake of their sister's heartache, a tapestry woven from the threads of sorrow and fury. Upon the 3rd day, as the newly circumcised men lay incapacitated with pain, Simeon and Levi chose their moment with deliberation. The air, heavy with tension, held its breath as they moved stealthily through the streets toward the heart of Shechem, the cries of justice embodying their steps. With swords drawn, they entered the city, a torrent of divine fury unleashed through their hands. The quiet of the morning shattered as they descended upon the defenseless, striking down with an unwavering purpose, swift and decisive as the hand of the Lord. Blood stained the earth, and the cries of the slain echoed like an anguished hymn through the valleys. Dinah, hidden behind the veil of her father's tent, watched in horror as the chaos unfolded. The violence her brothers had wrought overwhelmed her spirit, and despair clawed at her heart. She had sought to understand the world, yet this was not the understanding she desired. It was judgment untempered, justice without mercy. In that moment, the Lord spoke to her, the voice of the Almighty resonating deep within the confines of her ache. "Fear not, Dinah, for I walk with you through this dark valley." The words seeped into her being, a balm for her wounds. "Your pain shall not be in vain. From the ashes of your sorrow I will raise a remnant. For though the sword has cut deep, a greater redemption shall unfold." The aftermath of the attack hastened through the camp as fear gripped the hearts of the Canaanites. They scattered like chaff before the wind, seeking refuge in distant lands. The sons of Jacob, emboldened by their victory, pressed forth, their hearts steeled for whatever came next. As the dust settled, Jacob emerged from his tent, troubled by the bloodshed.
"You have brought trouble upon me, for the inhabitants of the land will gather against us," he said, his voice a mixture of fear and reproach. "What have you done to our family's name?" Simeon and Levi, resolute, replied, "Shouldn't we defend our sister? Should her shame go unavenged?" But Dinah, stepping forth, called them to account. "Is this not more than revenge? This bloodshed marks us. Will our legacy be forged in violence?" Her voice, though touched by trembling, held an echo of strength drawn from divine conviction. And in that sacred moment, as the tension hung heavy in the air, a divine mystery unfolded. God's plan was far greater than the clash of swords or the cries of anguish. He had sought to redeem not just Dinah's honor, but to establish a lineage through which the nations would know his covenant faithfulness. What lay ahead was a pathway written in the annals of eternity, yet veiled from their eyes. Would Jacob's family reclaim the honor lost, or would their actions lead to a greater fallout? The winds of promise rustled through the valleys of conflict, whispering of a destiny intertwined with God's everlasting love, unfolding promises that awaited revelation. As Jacob lingered in the aftermath of the violence, a palpable heaviness enveloped his heart. His sons stood firm, emboldened by their act of vengeance, yet within him churned the weight of their actions. "You have done what is evil in the sight of the Lord," he murmured, grief-stricken. "The Canaanites will rise against us, and our household will become a desolation." But Simeon, with the fire of defiance burning in his eyes, retorted, "What would you have us do, Father? Allow the shame of our sister to stand unchallenged? Could we falter before their wickedness?" Levi, bloodied yet resolute, joined the charge. "We have acted to protect our own. Is it not written that a just man defends the honor of his kin?" The echoes of their decisions surged like a storm, leaving Jacob to wrestle with a bitter truth that spread through his veins like poison. In the silence that followed, Dinah, though engulfed in turmoil, felt the stirring of hope within her spirit. Stepping closer to her brothers, she sought to bind their hearts with truth. "The Lord speaks of a covenant," she declared, her voice steady as a shaft of light piercing clouds. "If we are to establish our legacy, it must extend beyond bloodshed. We must find a path of righteousness amidst this dark road." At her words, a hush settled over the camp, and her brothers, embers of rage still flickering in their hearts, looked upon her with hearts softened by the gravity of her plea. "Tell us, Dinah, what would you have us be?" asked Simeon, the tension easing from his shoulders. Dinah breathed deeply, recalling the Lord's promise. "Let us be a people marked not by our anger, but by our faith. Let us seek reconciliation where there is division, peace where there is strife. In our wounds lies the seed of healing for our legacy." Hope, ignited by their sister's vision, breathed new life into their spirits. Yet the winds that blew through Shechem whispered not of rest, but of reckoning. For from afar the voices of the Canaanites grew louder, drawn by the scent of blood and emboldened by their fallen kin. As night settled upon the shadowed landscape, a voice rang like a trumpet through the air, calling out for justice. The allies of Shechem arose, a coalition of the fierce and the powerful, eager to exact revenge for their fallen brethren. They rallied their warriors in the valleys, their hearts filled with a thirst for vengeance, their intentions darkened by the fire of wrath. Jacob, aware of the dire consequences, sought the face of the Lord in prayer, beseeching him for mercy upon their family. "Father of our fathers, protect us under the shadow of your wings," he cried. lead us not into temptation, nor allow the evil one to prevail against us." Simeon and Levi, hearing their father's cries, felt a tumult of fear and resolve rise within them. Dinah, sensing the weight of the land's uncertainty, approached her father. "Will you not trust the Lord to lead us through this? For I believe there is a purpose greater than we can fathom." And just as the dawn's first light began to pierce through the darkness, a messenger arrived, weary and shaken. "The Canaanites have gathered their warriors," he cried, "and seek to exact vengeance upon Jacob's house. They march upon this camp at break of day." Tension filled the air as the family grappled with the impending storm. What would be their fate? As they stood united, the tension of their situation was palpable, each heart alive with questions. But in the stillness of that moment, a presence enveloped them, a reminder of God's sovereign hand over their lives, nudging them toward a revelation yet unseen. "Remember, O Jacob, my covenant with you is everlasting," a whisper echoed through the winds. Would they face the oncoming storm and emerge purified, tempered like steel, or would their legacy shadow them forever? The answers hovered in the balance, entwined within the divine tapestry that only he could weave. A greater redemption awaited, concealed yet near. Unbeknownst to them, this battle was but a precursor to a promise destined to unfold. As the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, illuminating the land with its golden glow, Jacob stood upon the precipice of fear and faith. His heart trembled at the thought of the approaching warriors, their battle cries echoing like thunder across the valley. He gathered his sons around him, for the weight of the moment demanded unity and resolve. "Brothers," he spoke, the tremor in his voice betraying the storm within him, "we stand at a crossroads. The men of Shechem come for our heads, yet we must not yield to despair. Our God is a God of justice and mercy."
Levi, still reeling from the tumult of the previous days, clenched his fist as he answered, "Shall we stand idle and watch as they come to destroy us? We have been wronged, and we must act before the first spear is cast." But Dinah, unwavering, raised her voice above the din of their voices. "No, let our response be one of faith. We are called to be more than mere avengers of blood. The Lord desires not our vengeance, but our reliance upon him. It is his covenant that shall sustain us." Jacob's eyes softened as he regarded his daughter. "You speak with wisdom beyond your years, Dinah. We are indeed to be guided by the Lord's will. But how can we be certain that he will deliver us from these wrathful men?" In that moment, lowered heads reverberated with uncertainty, every heart beating with anxiety. Just then, the messenger who had warned them of the impending attack returned, breathless and pale. "I have seen their numbers, and they grow large," he urged. "Their anger is fierce, and they thirst for our blood." The tension, like a tightly drawn bowstring, threatened to snap. Yet in the midst of the palpable fear, Dinah felt the Spirit moving within her, and she turned toward the heavens. "O Lord, hear our cry," she prayed, her heart open to divine counsel. "Guide us in this perilous time. Show us your will." As she concluded her plea, a deep silence enveloped the camp, and the winds shifted direction. Suddenly, a rumbling sound filled the air, unlike any that had been heard before, a sound of distant thunder, not from the sky, but from the very earth beneath them. The ground trembled as if bearing witness to a divine encounter. Jacob, moving closer to his children, felt the holy presence of God surround them. "Fear not," he whispered, his heart stirring with faith, "for the Lord shall fight for us." Just then, an unexpected vision cascaded into his mind, a memory of the covenant the Lord had made with him at Bethel, a promise of a nation under his name. And so the family joined hands, a circle of unity against the impending storm. They shared prayers of surrender and hope, beseeching God for guidance. In that sacred moment, they did not merely see an army advancing, they saw a divine opportunity unfolding before them. With newfound courage, they prepared not simply for battle, but for a divine revelation. They would stand as a testament to faith, whether a victory came through the sword or through peace. "Let us go forth, not for vengeance, but for the glory of our God," Jacob proclaimed, emboldened by the dim light of hope shining upon their path. Yet as they gathered their spirit and strength, a figure emerged from the distance, a man with fiery eyes, seemingly unbent by the hostility around him. And as he approached, a wave of expectation filled their hearts, for they sensed he bore tidings not just of war, but of the unfolding plans of God. But would this encounter herald their salvation or deepen their trials? The air was thick with suspense, and beneath the surface, God's sovereign purpose began to take shape, revealing a tapestry richer than they could grasp, a revelation that all hope rested upon a singular truth. God works in the midst of chaos, channeling suffering into the promise of redemption. As the figure drew closer, his presence seemed to part the very fabric of reality, and a radiant light surrounded him, dispelling the dark clouds of fear that loomed over Jacob and his family. The man, clothed in garments that shimmered like sunlit gold, approached with a sense of authority that inspired both awe and trembling within their hearts. "Peace be unto you," he declared, his voice resonating with the power of 1,000 oceans, yet gentle as a whisper. "I am sent forth by the Most High to speak to you in your hour of need." Jacob stepped forward, his heart racing with a mixture of reverence and curiosity. "Who are you? Will you be our help against those who seek our destruction?" The messenger smiled, a light in his eyes. "I am but a servant of the Lord, commissioned to remind you of his faithfulness. He has not forgotten his covenant with you, and through this trial his glory shall be revealed." Leaning in, Levi interjected, "But our enemies draw near. How shall we fight? How shall we defend our family?" "Do not fight as the world fights," the messenger replied, "for it is not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts." Zechariah 4:6. His gaze shifted to Dinah, who stood resolute among her brothers. "A great purpose is woven into the fabric of your lives, dear child. The Lord sees your pain, and his heart yearns for your healing." Dinah, her spirit ignited by hope, asked boldly, "Will God give us victory today, or will he lead us through suffering instead?" "The path may twist in ways that do not yet make sense," he replied, "but know this, both suffering and victory serve his divine will. You shall be a vessel of his glory, a beacon of light to those in darkness." Jacob felt a swell of faith rising within him. "We will go forth, not in vengeance, but as instruments of God's peace. Let the Lord's will be done among us." The messenger turned, raising his hand as if to beckon a great movement of the heavens. "Bear witness, the Lord will set forth his plan through your obedience. For today a greater revelation will unfold, one that will shake both heaven and earth as it was promised." With solemnity he continued, "Even now the hearts of men stir with fear and confusion, for the Lord has caused discord among your enemies. They are not just men driven by rage, but pawns in the grand tapestry of divine will. Your destiny, Dinah, is intertwined with the deliverance that is about to manifest." With each word, Jacob and his sons felt their spirits uplifted, the heaviness of dread lifting from their shoulders.
They saw each other, not as warriors desperate for survival, but as agents of God's mercy, to be reflections of his grace even amidst chaos. As the first echoes of distant battle cries reached them, the messenger lifted his gaze towards the mountains, where swirls of clouds gathered, darkening with a promised storm. "Prepare yourselves. The Lord's intervention is at hand. Do not fear what lies ahead, for in your faithfulness his truth shall shine through." The family stood together, hands lifted in surrender, allowing the Spirit to envelop them. Their hearts were now unyielding, emboldened by the truths revealed. Dinah could feel the stirrings of destiny igniting within her. Yet as the tension thickened in the air, a prophecy yet unknown awaited revelation. What would this day unfold? "For the time has come," the messenger intoned, "for God to turn mourning into joy, and his sovereign plan shall be unveiled, one that echoes through generations, revealing a destiny far greater than you can fathom." The man's presence began to fade, yet the words lingered in the air like the aroma of incense. Jacob felt both the weight of uncertainty and the thrill of divine promise weaving through their plight. In Calamy, how would the events of this day rewrite their story and the story of a people chosen by God? As the light of the messenger began to vanish from their sight, the atmosphere thickened with a profound expectancy. Jacob and his sons held their collective breath, and the world around them seemed suspended in the moment of divine revelation. Suddenly, the horizon erupted with a fierce wind, sending dust swirling into the air.
It was as though the heavens themselves were responding to the call of the Almighty. Jacob turned toward his sons, his heart filled with a fierce determination. "Stand firm, my children. Let us remember the words of our God, the promise he made to our father Abraham and our grandfather Isaac. Today we shall witness that promise come to fruition." Levi looked toward the east, where the shadows of their foes lingered like a dark cloud. "But, Father, how can we face them? We are but a people without weapons, and they come with swords drawn. Will the Lord fight for us?" With a steady gaze, Jacob replied, "The Lord is our banner and our shield. As he delivered our ancestors from the clutches of Egypt, so shall he deliver us from those who rise against us. We are not alone, for the Lord of hosts walks among us." Then Dinah, emboldened by her encounter with the heavenly messenger, raised her voice above the mounting chaos. "Let us march confidently into this battle, not seeking to destroy, but to reveal the mercy of God. The evil around us cannot stand against the light we bear. We shall love our enemies, and in doing so, we shall subvert their hatred." At that, a ripple of murmuring passed through the family. They exchanged glances of fear and hope, each one grasping the weight of Dinah's words.
In that moment, they understood their struggle was not merely against human adversaries, but against the spiritual forces that sought their destruction. Ephesians 6:12. The clouds overhead rolled like a mighty ocean, yet within them, the storm clouds of turmoil transformed into a vibrant light, illuminating the path before them. The messenger's words echoed in their minds. Your obedience will reveal his plan. With renewed spirit, Jacob led his family forward. They marched towards the rising tide of their enemies, hearts joined in defiance of despair. A great roar erupted from the approaching battalion, yet undeterred, the sons of Jacob raised their hands, calling upon the Lord, invoking the ancient promises of their forefathers. At that very moment, as if in response to their cries, the earth trembled and a deafening sound erupted from the heavens. A lightning bolt split the sky, illuminating the terrain around them. The confusion that befell their enemies was palpable as fear gripped their hearts, and they faltered, stumbling upon one another in their haste to retreat. "O Lord," cried Jacob, "you are indeed the God who delivers." His voice was a mixture of awe and gratitude, resonating against the dim dawn. In the midst of this chaos, Dinah felt a stirring deep within her soul. "Father," she called with newfound urgency, "I sense a greater purpose at work. The Lord has a plan for our deliverance, one that will heal not just us, but those who oppose us. We are not merely here to fight, but to reconcile." And as her words fell upon those around her, a collective awareness swept through the hearts of Jacob's family. They were called not only to endure, but to intercede, to embody the mercy they themselves had received. In that pivotal moment, the full weight of their destiny descended upon them like the glory of God. How could it be that Dinah, in her suffering, would carry the seed of peace amid conflict? What further depths of grace were hidden yet to be unveiled? Thus a question loomed as their enemies cowered before them. What deeper truth had God woven within their plight? For the time had clearly come for a miraculous redemption to unfold, one that would echo down through generations, revealing a tapestry of grace that none could foresee. As the dust settled from their adversaries' retreat, a profound stillness enveloped Jacob and his sons. The echoes of chaos faded, leaving only the whispers of divine assurance in the hearts of the faithful. Jacob stood before his assembled family, his voice steady and profound. "Children, the Lord has defended us this day, and the spirit of courage has filled our hearts. But let us not forget, the victory is not ours alone, but belongs to our God, who guides our path." The sons turned to the horizon, watching the shadows that once loomed threateningly now dissipate like mist before the rising sun. However, amidst the relief, a tremor of uncertainty pulsed through their hearts. "What next, Father?" Benjamin asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Our enemies may scatter, but they have not forgotten us. They will return." "Yes, Benjamin," Jacob responded, his brow furrowed with concern. "But we shall not waver. What we have witnessed shall fortify our faith and our resolve. It was not mere chance that the sky split open. It was the hand of God." Just then Dinah stepped forward, emboldened by the revelation that had stirred within her. "Let us gather our strength. We are to be ambassadors of peace, as the Lord has ordained. We must seek reconciliation, not retaliation. Her eyes shone with a divine light, reflecting the very essence of her heart's calling. "What are you saying, Dinah?" Judah inquired, a mixture of disbelief and curiosity in his voice. "You wish to meet our enemies once more, after they have sought to destroy us?" "Their hearts are burdened with fear, just as ours were," Dinah explained, resolve hardening in her spirit. "We have the light of God's mercy within us. If we stand firm in love, we might lead them from darkness into his embrace." The brothers exchanged glances, the tension in the air palpable as they considered Dinah's bold declaration. Simeon finally spoke, his brow knitted. "It is a noble thought, sister, but what if they come with hostility anew? How shall we protect our family?" "By the same faith that has brought us this far," Jacob interjected, his voice strong and unwavering. "For is it not written, 'The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry'?" Psalm 34:15. Encouragement swelled in Jacob's heart as he glanced at his sons, seeing their doubt give way to contemplation. "If we are to meet with them, then let us go armed not with swords but with prayer. We will offer them peace and testify to the goodness of our God." Thus they gathered together, hearts united in purpose. With fervent prayers they sought the Lord's guidance, imploring him to prepare the hearts of their adversaries. They reminded each other of the covenant promises, instilling their spirits with hope, believing in the capacity for transformation, both in themselves and those who once plotted against them. As they set forth, the landscape loomed large before them, a vast expanse marked by both peril and promise. Suddenly, a cloud passed overhead, and the sun momentarily faded, creating an ambiance pregnant with divine weight. Doubts crept back into their minds, but Dinah raised her hands, calling for their attention. "Fear not, for just as he protected us today, he will guide us tomorrow. We are part of his greater plan." In that sacred moment, a thunderous sound echoed in the distance, and all eyes turned toward the gathering clouds. A glimmer of lightning danced in the darkened sky, a sign of God's presence, reminding them of his sovereignty in their midst. The anticipation thickened the air as they marched on, hearts racing with a mixture of hope and trepidation.
As they drew closer to the place where their foes might be found, questions swirled within them. What would they find waiting? Had the hearts of their enemies softened in the light of their encounter with God? And so, as they stood on the threshold of a new chapter in their destiny, a deeper truth unveiled itself. What unforeseen encounters lay ahead? Just as God had woven grace into their plight, might he also weave together the lives of many, orchestrating a broader redemption that surpassed their understanding. As the family of Jacob moved forward, a heavy tension hung in the air, mixing hope with the apprehension of the unknown. Dinah led them, her heart filled with a fervent desire for peace, while the brothers followed closely, each wrestling with his own thoughts. "Is it not written," Judah muttered quietly, almost to himself, "that the Lord will give us beauty for ashes and joy instead of mourning?" Isaiah 61:3. His voice carried an echo of the burdens they bore, yet within it lingered a glimmer of faith that spoke to the promise of redemption. Yet as they approached the outskirts of the land where their foes had gathered, the sound of distant voices reached their ears, angry shouts mingled with cries of lament. The air thickened as the brothers recognized the tumult. It spoke of unrest and unresolved conflict. "What if the chaos we hear is but the prelude to another attack?" Simeon queried, casting a wary glance towards the horizon. Dinah halted, raising her hands imploringly, her spirit resolute. "Let us not forget our mission, to bring forth a message of peace and hope. We must not falter now, for it is in our hands to be instruments of the Lord's grace." "Peace?" mocked one of Jacob's sons, bitterness creeping into his tone. But Dinah turned to him, her eyes ablaze with the light of conviction. "To forgive is to bear witness to the power of our God. He has shown us mercy, has he not? How can we withhold that from others?" The fervor of her faith kindled the hearts of her brothers, causing them to reconsider their path. In the silence that followed, Jacob moved to stand beside her, his face marred by the years of toil and strife, yet filled with a father's pride for his courageous daughter. "What Dinah speaks is truth," he asserted. "It is our duty to exhibit the Lord's mercy, for even in darkness the light shines through, and the day shall dawn when hearts are softened." Thus emboldened by their father's affirmation, they approached the encampment, their feet heavy with trepidation, but their spirits raised in unison.
The air pulsed with the energy of divinely charged possibility as they were met by a large group of their enemies, a solemn assembly gathering at the edges of their camp. As they drew near, the leader of their foes, the very man who had once sought to destroy them, stepped forward, his face lined with worry. "What brings you here, children of Jacob?"
"Surely you have come to exact vengeance upon us." With composure beyond her years, Dinah stepped forth, her heart steady. "No, we do not come as avengers, but as ambassadors of peace. We have been spared and saved by the mercy of our God, and we desire to extend that same mercy to you." The gathered men shifted nervously, glancing at one another as murmurs rippled through the crowd. The leader, a man named Hamor, seemed to wrestle with his own turmoil. "Can it be true? Have your hearts become so filled with forgiveness? Or is this but a ruse, a return to claim what we have from your hands?" At that moment, a silence enveloped them, heavy with the weight of pending decisions. The heavens above grew darker, a foreboding sign of divine scrutiny, as Dinah stood resolute, a beacon of hope ablaze amidst uncertainty. "God has shown us that the path of vengeance leads only to despair," she continued, her voice unwavering. "But the path of reconciliation leads to healing and the hope of a brighter future." At these words, she felt a stirring among the crowd. Perhaps, just perhaps, they might bridge the chasm carved by years of animosity. The tension could dissolve in the face of newfound understanding. In that moment, as thunder rumbled and lightning flashed yet again, a revelation came upon them. Could this confrontation herald not just reconciliation, but a deeper fulfillment of God's promise? A promise that spoke of healing, not only between them, but for the nations beyond, hinting at the great tapestry God was weaving across the ages. As hope hung palpably between them, one question lingered in the air, resonant and urgent. What greater purpose did God have in this holy encounter? As the tumult of voices echoed in the tense atmosphere, a hesitance settled upon the assembly, both Jacob's sons and their adversaries hanging upon Dinah's words like a fragile thread. The air was thick with expectancy, and a holy quietude wrapped itself around them, as if the universe itself paused to witness this pivotal moment. Hamor regarded Dinah with a gaze that bore both fear and curiosity, the storm within him waging war as he wrestled with the implications of her declaration. "If you come seeking peace, then what do you ask of us? Can trust be formed from mistrust? Can we consider ourselves one family when the blood of our kin still stains our hands?" Seeing his turmoil, Dinah felt a surge of compassion. "We come as forebearers of reconciliation," she replied, her voice firm but gentle. "As it is written, the Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and rich in love." Psalm 145:8. "We have been shown this grace, and now we extend it to you, that we may walk together in harmony." The murmurs intensified, questions fluttering like wings among the gathering. Some judged her words harshly, unable to comprehend the depths of such forgiveness, while others dared to hope.
Underneath this tumult, a glimmer of something divine flickered to life, a unity long sought, now tantalizingly close. Judah, emboldened by Dinah's pleading, stepped forward. "Let us not revisit past grievances, but rather craft our future with the very fibers of this peace we extend. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29:11. We cannot prosper unless we lay down our old swords and build a new foundation. At the mention of hope, a hush fell, and Hamor's expression softened, the weight upon his heart appearing to lighten. "And if we were to accept this offer, how then do we proceed? For trust is a fragile thing and must be nurtured." Dinah's heart raced as she pondered the direction unfolding before them. "We must bind ourselves together through true covenant and agreement to support one another, to protect our families, and to carry forth peace. Let us establish a sign that we shall remember, so future generations may know that this day marked our beginning anew, a testament to the power of mercy." In the shadows of her statement, the wind stirred, bending the tall grasses as though nature herself tuned in to the divine dialogue. The ominous clouds above began to wane, yielding glimpses of sunlight breaking through, illuminating their intent. It was as if heaven bore witness to their resolve. Hamor, his heart stirred by conviction, nodded slowly.
A covenant, you say? Then let us offer a sacrifice of thanks, an act that binds us together before the eyes of God. Let this day be remembered. But no, if conflict arises anew, your mercy shall demand its keeping, for such a bond is not made lightly. As the words hung in the air, Dinah felt a tremor of destiny coursing through her. Indeed, let us seal it in worship, for it is through God's own hands that such notions of grace are birthed. In that moment, a sense of profound divine purpose surged through the gathering, igniting anticipation for what was to come. She marveled at the echoes of God's sovereign plan unfolding as she realized the implications, the healing of her family, the uniting of nations, and perhaps even a spark of hope destined to illuminate the hearts of many. Yet as the covenant began to be drawn by the hand of the Lord, a powerful question arose within her spirit, echoing far deeper than their present circumstances. As they stepped into this radically new world of divine intentions, what unforeseen tribulations and triumphs lay ahead? As the sun hung high in the sky, casting its golden rays upon the gathering, a sense of divine purpose enveloped the assembly. The air thickened with expectation, each heart beating in unison, bound by Dinah's vision of peace. In that sacred moment of a heartfelt covenant taking shape, Jacob's family felt the weight of their legacy, along with the promise of restoration that God wove through their trials.
"Let us build an altar," Jacob proclaimed, his voice rising with authority. "Let this be a place of remembrance for what the Lord has done, for the healing he has initiated among us." The murmurs of agreement washed over the gathering like a gentle tide, and Hamor's people nodded, reflecting the newfound hope ignited within them. Gathering stones, both nations united in purpose, they set forth to construct the altar, a testament to their agreement to seek reconciliation instead of revenge. With each stone placed, Dinah felt the bitterness of the past recede, replaced instead with a palpable joy vibrating through the earth. As the altar rose, the men of Jacob and the men of Shechem stood shoulder to shoulder, woven together by a shared journey toward healing. "This altar shall be a witness between us," Dinah spoke, lifting her voice above the clamor. "Whenever we look upon it, we may remember that love prevails over hatred, and understanding triumphs where discord once reigned." As the final stone settled into place, a hush fell upon the crowd. The sun's beams streamed down, illuminating the altar with a divine glow, signifying God's blessing upon this new pact. "Come, let us offer a sacrifice, a solemn act of gratitude for the mercy bestowed upon us," Jacob invited, motioning for all to gather close. Together, with reverence and humility, they laid their offerings upon the altar. As the smoke of the sacrifices wafted into the air, a gentle breeze stirred, as if heaven itself smiled upon them. Voices lifted in unison, a chorus of prayer and praise, celebrating newfound relationships and the grace that had transformed enmity into kinship. Dinah, filled with an unexplainable joy, felt the depths of her heart swell with purpose as she beheld the faces of those once estranged, now illuminated by the warm light of forgiveness. "Let this covenant flow into the generations that follow," Jacob declared, his heart brimming with hope, as he cast a knowing glance towards Dinah. "For today marks a new beginning, a legacy of transformation that shall echo through the ages." Though shadows lingered in the distance, a spark of God's sovereign presence ignited the hearts before the altar. No longer merely a victim, Dinah had become an instrument of peace. Hope radiated from her being, touching every soul gathered around, reminding them of God's promise sealed in love. As laughter broke forth amid the assembly, the weight of despair that had once held them captive shattered like glass. Jacob's sons shared stories with Hamor's men, tales of grace amidst grief, each narrative drawing them closer, knitting their hearts together. The old ways of vengeance were set aside. Instead, a tapestry woven of compassion and understanding began to unfold. But just as this fellowship blossomed, the specter of their past lingered. What if the Canaanites, hostile and unforgiving, sought retribution after witnessing their reconciliation?
Yet the ground beneath was now firm with faith, fortified by the covenant they had forged amidst a backdrop of chaos. And so Dinah pressed on with unwavering faith. "We have been transformed, and in our renewal, maybe our enemies too may find the path to redemption." Her voice rang true, resolute like a clarion call, as the families twined their hands and lifted them toward the heavens. United in one accord, they prayed fervently, beseeching the Lord to soften the hearts of their foes, paving the way to embrace the love he had poured out upon them. As the sun began its descent into twilight, a warm light wrapped around them, a divine assurance that through their obedience, God was indeed at work. With hearts renewed and spirits emboldened, Jacob's family and the men of Shechem stood ready to face the challenges ahead. This moment held the potential to reshape their destinies, and without delay, they ventured forth, united beneath the banner of grace, claiming what God had promised, a legacy not of strife, but one filled with the light of redemption.
Thus was the testimony of Dinah's struggle transformed by God's unfailing mercy, a legacy that would resonate through the ages, a beautiful story that illuminated the path of truth, striking chords of faith amid the dark recesses of human anger. United now in God's overarching narrative, they forged ahead into a new dawn, embodying the truth that God indeed works miracles through the hearts of those willing to seek peace over conflict, love over hatred, and unity over division. As the final rays of sunlight spilled across the land, shining hope anew, the echoes of their vows resounded like a symphony of grace, a chorus of divine promise declaring that, from the ashes of hardship, something beautiful had arisen. Now, dear friends, may this powerful story of Dinah and her family inspire your faith as it unfolds beyond the confines of fear and into the fullness of God's promise. If you felt God's presence through this narrative, don't wait even one more second to stay connected to His Word. Subscribe immediately to our channel. Leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm so that even more souls can rejoice in His love. Comment below how this story impacted your spirit and your faith journey, as I am eager to hear your reflections. And share this powerful testimony instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear about God's everlasting grace and redemption. Together, let us carry forth the light of His truth into the world, reaching hearts for Christ.